getting household. The villa in Spain took a year to reform to our liking, landscaping the garden, so we've kept pretty busy. And we bought a couple of German dogs that we trained, and the thoughts of Mosaic and the art were far from our mind. But anyway, Mary developed what's known as a frozen shoulder, probably from help me move the furniture around, and able to lift her arm. And it was suggested that we get some treatment from a faith healer who was working a local holistic and psychic health fair. It didn't help, but we met a woman who knew from our dog training class that mentioned she had a Hungarian gypsy friend named Giovanna who was a clairvoyant and very good at giving readings. And it was Mary's birthday the following week, so I phoned her to come along and give Mary a reading. A frail-looking woman arrived and gave Mary a reading for half an hour, which did not make any sense, but charged us $50. So she did quite well at doing nothing. But as she was leaving, she said to me, "What about you having a reading?" And with a quizzical look on my eyes, I said, "No way." I thought, I'm not stupid enough to pay another.
I've already dumped $50 into this.
I've dumped $50, not going to do any more. Anyhow, she must have read my mind, because she said, "I'm not charging you, don't worry, this is free." So I've got
all right, that's a good price.
I said, "Fine, yeah, well, the free's all right. I mean, I'll have two of them." Anyhow, the first thing she said was she saw numbers floating around me, and my thoughts flashed back to the day in Vegas when I had that dream. And she went on saying that I'm looking for something buried in the sands in Egypt. And this really startled me, because I hadn't told anybody in Spain about this was going on, or my automatic writing or anything. And then she told me, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. So I just let her talk. I mean, this was quite interesting. But she told me to find what I was looking for, I'd have to read between the lines in my notes. And that puzzled me. I didn't know what she meant. Wow. She ended up saying, "Only you and one other person will be with me," and then left for another appointment. It wasn't the first time I had clairvoyance reading. As before I was married, in England, I had some quite successful readings from other people. Maybe they're tuned into me and pick up what I've got. But apparently Giovanna was able to tune into me, and not my wife. Perhaps the pineal gland was in the right position for both of us, as you said.
Yeah.
Although she picked up some of the things from the automatic writing, but what she meant between the lines, I didn't know. But that night, around 3 a.m., I was unable to go back to sleep, thinking about what Giovanna said. And suddenly I knew what the lines were, so I got out of bed and went to the bookshelf where that same atlas I had with all the Chris's and the crosses on, which we did with mosaics, and between the lines would have meant the coordinates, because lines on a map are coordinates lines.
Right.
It was all beginning to make sense, but I still had plenty of work to complete around the house to do anything about it, except for reading the Exodus and making notes about the Ark, where I learnt more about the Ark, reading the Bible and stuff like that there, because I knew nothing about it.
Right. You had to do
a month later, while listening to an English-speaking radio station, in fact, Mary was listening to it, there was a woman named Joyce Morgan was being interviewed, as she was a renowned psychic artist. And Mary said I should contact her, because she might be able to tell me more about this automatic writing. After contacting the radio station for a phone number, I immediately called her. Now, this is quite strange. I asked if she knew anything about automatic writing, and she stopped me by saying that she was expecting my call and that she had to see me. I thought, this is unusual. Actually, I felt that this was a come-on.
Yeah.
In other words, she wanted money for reading.
Yeah, they'd say, "Oh, I'm so glad you called. I've been waiting for your call. Come in and give me money."
That's right, that's it. However, she went on to say that she had to help me and she's not going to charge me. Another one not charging me.
Okay, take two of those.
I asked where, yeah, 4 of those. I asked where she lived, and it was about 99 miles away, which was close to the airport. And now to us, 99 miles is quite a distance. I know over in America and Canada, 99 miles is nothing. People drive that to go to work. But in Spain, it's a long way. Anyhow, I thanked her and told her, I'm very busy, but it's a very long way to travel, Joyce. But I'll phone you whenever I've got to go and pick up friends and family at the airport. No, she says, you're coming tomorrow. I told her I couldn't, but she was so adamant, telling me that I'd be seeing her that soon. I apologised and I said to her, let me have your address and I'll give you a call, and I hung up. Anyway, a few minutes later, our insurance agent phoned me to tell me my car insurance policy that I'd ordered that morning was ready and it was being sent to me from head office. It would probably take a week to receive because the post over in Spain isn't that good. But I needed it urgently. The agent said if you really want to pick it up, then you'd have to come to the office, which is near the airport. And I checked out where the office was, and it was right next to where this girl Joyce lived.
Ah. Guess what?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Guess what? I immediately phoned her, and I said, Joyce, is tomorrow be okay to see you? I heard a chuckle, and she said, I told you you're coming to see me tomorrow. Well, she was good.
Yeah.
Okay, she and her husband lived
enough of doubting her now.
She was pretty good.
Yep.
She and her husband lived in a farmhouse, and they called it Serendipity, which was quite a good name for it, I believe, where she did her psychic gatherings and her husband Tom did alternate healing and medicine. And they also used their home to accommodate, free of charge, homeless people and feeding stray cats and dogs. They were really, really good people. Anyhow, after brewing us a cup of tea, she said she thought she'd give Mary a reading first, and I chatted to her husband Tom. She led her into another room. About 15 minutes later, Mary appeared clutching a sketch of a young woman wearing a Chinese dress who apparently had died, although Mary was not aware who she was, but Joyce said that she would know who the girl was when she got home. Okay. She also told Mary actually about her past. She was very good. I didn't ask her what there and then, but she told me she was good. Joyce, who knew nothing about me then, said, okay, let's come into another room. And I sat opposite her on a table, and she says that this recording has to be, what she's going to tell me has to be recorded.
Right.
And I said, why is that? Because she says you're going to need this later on, and you're going to listen to it listen to it in detail. And after starting a tape recorder, she sat with her eyes closed for a few minutes meditating. Then she kept whispering the words, numbers, numbers, numbers. She then told me that she could visualize numbers floating around me. Again, like this other girl, the other psychic.
Now let me guess. 3, 6, and 9.
Correct. She says they were prominent numbers. I mean, these psychics, when they're good, they're damn good.
Yep.
She even named the district where I was born in London, which was Bow. I was a place in London called Bow, B-O-W, and she said, I could visualize a place you're living in with the letter B and sounded like Bow, Bow, Boo or something, and she named it. And she then told me where my grandparents came from. And what stunned me was she said, I've got an ill relative living alone in South America. I remember sitting there in awe and amazement because everything she said was correct.
She was bang on.
Yeah, she told me things that I did have an ill relative living in South America, and that was true. And my parents and my parent and everything else. But the thing that really shocked me was that she said, I have a close relative living in Hong Kong. But at the time I thought, well, that's a bit easy to say because my wife's from Chinese and she had plenty of relatives. I'd have plenty of relatives in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But she says, no, it's not Mary's family. Someone close like your uncle or cousin. Then she paused, closed her eyes and blurted out, no, it's someone closer. And she just, off the pat of her head, she said, did you have a brother living in Hong Kong? I felt my legs giving away. I remember that. I started shivering. I told her that my brother is now living in Hong Kong as he just got posted as a teacher to the university. That girl was so accurate. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, she was
really,
just 100% on.
Yeah. I mean, some of these guys are good and some are bad. She went on with her eyes closed, telling me that she could visualize a man in a tent or a cave in the desert wearing ancient Arabic attire. So it's probably in Egypt, she says. And my heart's thumping when she says, "Are you looking for an Egyptian box?" I was puzzled.
Wow.
Sat there flabbergasted, unable to answer. I just sat there and she looked at me. And she said, "Oh, let me sketch what I'm visualizing." And she quickly drew what looked like the Ark of the Covenant described in Exodus. I've got that drawing. It's quite good. Anyhow, she then on and said, "I've got to draw your spirit guide because you don't know what he looks like." I says, "Fine." She hastily sketched a sketch which looked like a biblical character with long hair and a V-shaped beard. She thought his name began with the letter M, which sounded like the word Mrs. or Musis or Mussis or something like that.
Okay.
Again, she obviously knew it must have been this Mosek because she come up later with that word. Things were surely getting interested. I asked her how could she be sure that this was my spirit guide. I mean, she could have drawn anything and said this is a guide, or anyone could come up with a picture and say, "Hey, this is your guide." But she says, "No, you're going to realize it's correct when you get home and study my drawing. I'm sure you'll find something on it." And she did the sketch actually in about half a minute. She was very, very fast, a very good artist. I then told her about my automatic writing and what happened and how accurate she was with all the reading. But before she left, she said she's got to do a lot of work on me, and we visited many times and extremely good results come up. Anyhow, that evening when we got home from the first visit with Joyce, Mary found an old photograph of a friend she once knew in Hong Kong. And it looked exactly like the sketch Joyce had drawn, even to the clothes she was wearing on the picture. And the drawing had the same clothes on.
All right.
So I said to Mary, "Is she dead?" And she said, "I shouldn't think so. She wouldn't be that old." So I said, "Well, how are we going to find out?" She says, "I'm going to phone one of her friends in England who would probably know more about her and where she lives and everything else." And we did that, and she came back to me with a white face, and she was shocked. She says, "Guess what?" She told me the girl died several years ago.
Wow.
That was really something. Okay, we then studied the drawing of my so-called spirit guide that we now believe is Mosek, and we noticed that in his right iris, on the actual iris of the eye on the sketch, there was a shape that looks like the Sinai Peninsula. And that's Sinai Peninsula is between Egypt and Israel, and that actually was where the ark was built, and possibly where Moses was and with the ark, I don't know.
Right.
Anyhow, we visited Joyce many times, and although she never been to Egypt, in fact she'd never been anywhere except Spain, she was able to draw a freestanding cave in an area of the desert where she said the ark would be buried. And she come up with a drawing of a cave. And I mentioned to her that it's unusual because, most caves aren't freestanding. They're cut into a mountainside.
Right.
But she said, no, the cave was probably much larger thousands of years ago, and it would have deteriorated, and probably it was originally made out of limestone formation, and with the wind and the rain or whatever the weather conditions and everything else, it deteriorated, and it's now just a stump or blob there with a cave.
Okay.
But then I said, "Well, how am I going to find this cave?" She says, "Well, to find the cave, there's 5 landmarks you're going to find. And when you find those landmarks, you'll know it's